Italy has now surpassed China in the number of COVID-19 related deaths. Each country has had more than 3,000 people die from the virus. Italy has been averaging more than 350 deaths per day since March 15th. Wuhan, the city where the coronavirus outbreak started, has seen for the first time 0 new homegrown cases.
As healthcare workers battle to save victims of coronavirus, there are reports the national stockpile of masks, gloves, and other supplies is nearly depleted. President Trump insists those products are being sent directly to the front lines.
Many more. Hanes is making protective gear and masks.
But it looks like even though we've had a really bad week last week, remember when I was speaking to you before, I was saying this was really a bad week. There's still going to be a lot of deaths, but we're starting to see in some areas now that kind of flattening, particularly in a place that was a hot spot like New York.
As the U.S. approaches a tragic milestone, 100,000 dead, President Trump tonight is defending his handling of the pandemic, casting it as a success that the number of lives lost is not in the millions.
This week will be remembered for its very grim milestone, 100,000 American deaths from coronavirus. And the CDC now projects that number will surpass 123,000 just 3 weeks from now.
On Monday, May 25th, Minneapolis police officers respond to a call about a customer using a counterfeit $20 bill. An officer, later identified as Derek Chauvin, places his knee on Floyd's neck. As Floyd tells officers he can't breathe, bystanders plead for his life.
Chaos and destruction in Minneapolis tonight as police officers and protesters clash over a man's death.
We don't want to loot. That's not what we out here for. But we do want justice and we want equality. And if we don't get that, we're going to be out here.
Large crowds of demonstrators in multiple cities getting more violent following the death of George Floyd.
Overnight, across the country, the calls for justice are growing more intense. In Atlanta, where protesters filled the streets, smoke billowed into the sky as a police car went up in flames.
The Black Lives Matter movement isn't going away anytime soon. Thousands of people in Washington have been marching for almost 3 weeks. And now thousands more are hitting the streets again this week to highlight what's next.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
More federal law enforcement, that I can tell you. In Portland, they've done a fantastic job. These are anarchists. These are not protesters. People say protesters. These people are anarchists. These are people that hate our country.
Unmarked vehicles driving into crowds, pulling people off the streets without any probable cause, as far as I can tell. And the people who are engaging in those activities aren't even willing to identify who they are, and they don't wear insignia on their uniforms. That's a real threat to democracy.
What was the deal between Democratic Governor Kate Brown and Republican Vice President Mike Pence is what led to the announcement of some federal officers engaging with protesters at the courthouse will now leave.
To the United States now, where many businesses and schools across the country are reopening, even as case numbers climb. More than 5.3 million people in the U.S. have now tested positive since the start of the pandemic, and there are now more than 600,000 cases in California alone.
Well, as we talk about COVID-19, we now want to bring you to the United States, the state of South Dakota, and what is likely the biggest pandemic-era gathering to date in the U.S. It is the annual Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. It is expected to draw 250,000 people over the next 9 days. Again, this is in South Dakota, and masks are not required.
Ella Baker, a giant
thank you very
of the civil
much.
rights movement.
Thank you very much.
Left us with this week.
Thank you.
Give people life.
Thank you very much.
They will find the way.
Friends,
Give people
delegates,
life.
and distinguished guests.
Those
please.
are words for our time.
I stand before you tonight,
Current
honored
president
by your
has
support,
American darkness
proud of
for
the
much too
extraordinary
long.
progress we have made together
Too
over
much
the
anger.
last
Too much
4
fear, too
incredible
much division.
years, and brimming
Here
with
and now,
confidence
I
in the
give you
bright
my
future
word.
we will
You
build for
entrust me with the
America
presidency.
over the next
I will
4
draw on
years.
the best of us, not the worst. I'll be an ally of the light, not the darkness.
We begin this evening.
It's time for us,
Our
for we
thoughts
the people,
are with the wonderful
come together.
people.
More than 2.25 million acres burned in California this year already. Let's get you up to speed on the Bear Fire. This is part of the North Complex, which has burned more than 250,000 acres and is only 38% contained. Fire officials say it's moving so fast, it's burning at a rate of 1,000 acres per half hour.
Now at 7 o'clock, gusty winds and warm weather continues as dozens of wildfires burn across the Pacific Northwest. This afternoon, Governor Kate Brown called the wildfires an unprecedented event for Oregon. Thousands of people have evacuated their homes.
At least 2 people have died in wildfires that are burning across Oregon. The Riverside fire has scorched more than 40,000 acres near the city of Estacada. Mandatory evacuations are underway, with residents being told to leave immediately. Now, in the town of Medford, the Alameda fire destroyed homes and melted cars overnight. Fire officials say this wildfire season is unlike anything that state has seen in recent memory.
Justice Ginsburg died at home in Washington, surrounded by family. We're told from complications of pancreatic cancer. She was 87 years old, and despite her long bout with several different forms of cancer and all the complications, she seemed to many indestructible.
Tonight, the United States has reached yet another devastating and unthinkable moment in a pandemic that continues to change our country and our way of life. As we come on the air tonight, more than 200,000 people in the U.S. have now been killed by the virus. 200,000 lives lost, 200,000 stories left unfinished. And tonight, there's some breaking news that the crisis may once again be getting worse.
Based on what you have said and done so far, and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward?
To follow up with you and your comments, you talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks. Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are 2 companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
This is AP News Minutes. President Donald Trump and Democratic challenger Joe Biden have handed their fate to voters who flocked to the polls in record numbers Tuesday. With all eyes on battleground states, First Lady Melania Trump cast her vote in Florida. President Trump began his day on an upbeat note. He predicts he'll do better than in 2016.
In a stunning display from a sitting president, Donald Trump launching an assault on the integrity of the election, unleashing a barrage of false claims of fraud and corruption without evidence.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us.
That Joe Biden has won the Keystone State, Pennsylvania, and its 20 electoral votes.
And that means we can now project that former Vice President Joe Biden has been elected President of the United States.
That former Vice President Joe Biden will win Pennsylvania and Nevada, putting him over the 270 electoral votes he needs to become the 46th President of the United States.
After 4 long, tense days, we've reached a historic moment in this election.
And when our very democracy was on the ballot in this election, with the very soul of America at stake, and the world watching, you ushered in a new day for America.
Folks, the people of this nation have spoken. They've delivered us a clear victory, a convincing victory, a victory for we the people.